Travel and Adventure Show here at the Convention Center in LA. I'm just gonna walk around, check out all the booths, and then see if we can meet Josh Gates.
East from Istanbul, nobody knows we even exist between here and Seattle. And we didn't know a single soul between there and Seattle.
He's actually here today.
We're also California will feel it, right? But
Got my picture taken with the bison.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Arizona?
I've done this. Yeah.
How was it?
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Come visit us again.
They do things like branding,
You know what? A lot of
this actually is part of the great
snowbirds as well. And yoga center, Smiley. So yeah, and so I have these samples. So if you want, we'll do like some experiential.
Okay.
Okay, ready? So we're gonna. So this is the scent of Yosemite.
That's great. Or I could just go there.
Yeah, or you can just go there. Exactly.
Give a big welcome to the one and only Josh Gates, everyone. Josh Gates. Hello, how are you, everybody? What's going on? Wow, there's a lot of people here. Thank you so much for coming out.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Great. Well, welcome everybody to the 2025 Travel and Adventure Show here in Los Angeles. I hope everybody is having as much fun today as I have had walking around here, seeing all these amazing destinations and generally feeling inspired about the world. So today we are going to talk about travel. We're going to talk about how to turn your next trip into your next great adventure. And then if I don't talk too much, we'll do a Q&A so we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Does that sound good? Yes? Okay. So, for those of you who don't know me, hi, my name's Josh. I have been traveling for a living for about 20 years now. And I go all over the world. I'm abroad about 150 to 200 days a year. My soul is owned by the Discovery Channel, where they put me to work on a great many different things, hosting different shows, including projects like Tales from the Explorers Club, which features the exploits of some of history's greatest adventurers from the storied Explorers Club. Any Explorers Club members here? There we go, a couple of members in the house. Thanks for coming today. I also host Expedition X on Discovery. There we go, thanks. Which explores the paranormal, the cryptozoological, generally the stranger side of travel. They let me host a talk show, especially during global pandemics. And as of late, I'm the host of a show called Expedition Files, which takes our viewers around the world to explore case files of some of history's greatest mysteries. New evidence in the story of D.B. Cooper, or whether King Tut's tomb is actually cursed. Incidentally, I spent the night in King Tut's tomb 20 years ago, slept there overnight, so if it is cursed, it is a very slow-moving curse. I am still here. At any rate, tune in Wednesday nights. We were just renewed for a second season, which is always good to have happen. But primarily, I am the host of a show called Expedition Unknown. This is the flagship show. I've been hosting Expedition Unknown for about 10 years now, and on EXU, as we call it, I have been all over the world investigating mysteries and archaeological puzzles and legends. Here's a look at a few of our adventures into the unknown. Check it out. I'm Josh Gates, explorer, adventurer, and a guy who ends up in some very strange situations. And just so I know what's going to kill me in this jungle, lots of venomous snakes, jaguars, and panthers. Okay, I'm sorry I asked. Also, tropical diseases, killer bees. Enough, friends. And so, I invite you to join me. Get ready. It's going to get nuts. On the adventure of a lifetime. Let's do this. This is Expedition Unknown. There we go. If you're a fan of the show, you'll be happy to hear we are out in the world right now filming all new episodes for an all-new season. I just got back from Africa, where we are doing a show on the man-eating lions of Tsavo, if you've ever heard that story. And after this, I'm headed to Central America to go look for a lost ship. Our most recent season even made the news, which you might have seen. And I mean, we made all the news. From here to the deserts of Jordan, we got a lot of press about an amazing discovery that we were on hand for at the famed site of Petra, one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Petra was built, if you don't know, by the kind of enigmatic Nabatean civilization, this amazing society of desert traders who became very, very wealthy by controlling trade throughout the deserts of Arabia. They built this amazing empire, and of course at the center of their capital city of Petra is the most famous building. After all, it is the final resting place of the Holy Grail in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. This is the Treasury Building, but for as famous as this building is, everybody has seen postcard pictures of this place, even if you've never been there. We know very little about this building. We don't really know who built it. We know the Nabateans built it, but we don't know which king. We don't know exactly when it was built. We don't even know what it was built for. There are rumors that it was used to store a vast treasure, which is why it's called the Treasury. There were rumors that that treasure was kept in this urn, this carved urn at the top of the center of the building, which is why it's riddled with bullet holes, because many people over the years have tried to make it pop like a piñata, but of course no treasure was found there. Some people think it was a temple. Most people believe it was a tomb for a Nabatean king. There is not a single inscription anywhere on this building to tell us anything about it, which is kind of amazing. So probably the most famous building in the world that we know the least about. We worked with a team of archaeologists to do remote scanning in front of the Treasury building using ground-penetrating radar, and we imaged a void 12 feet underground, and we dug. One of the most mind-blowing experiences of my life, putting a shovel in the earth in front of the Treasury building, and we dug down 12 feet, and here's what we found. We found a tomb with 12 skeletons inside, and I'm being arrested for this discovery. A tomb with 12 skeletons inside what looks like a family tomb. This appears to predate the Treasury building above, which makes sense. And archaeologists will now study these skeletal remains to gain a better understanding of this site and who built it. Incidentally, we also found this ceramic vessel, which looks a lot, and I mean a lot, like the Holy Grail from the Last Crusade. I did not drink out of it. People always ask me that. I should have. I could have lived forever. So for fans of Expedition Unknown, this is what I want to talk about today, the unknown. The unknown is a good and important thing, and I want to encourage all of you to think about the unknown as you head out here into this hall and look over these endless choices of where to travel to. I have always been fascinated by the unknown, by faraway places, by lost cities, by vanished explorers. My daughter's middle name is Amelia, if that gives you any idea who you're dealing with here. And I'm often asked where this fascination came from in my life. And it's obvious, right? It came from here. You know, I am a child of the 80s. Maybe there are 80s kids in the room. You know, for those of you who didn't have the pleasure of growing up in the 80s, we were basically dumped at the mall to live off of McDonald's and Orange Julius and to go to the movies. And so movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark totally inspired me. I went on to get a degree in archaeology pretty much just because of this movie. I have gone looking for the Lost Ark in my professional career. I have not found it, spoiler alert, but I've gone looking for it. And no movie was on repeat in my house growing up more than The Goonies. Yes, never say die. Adventures like this inspired me as a kid, and books inspired me. I'm a huge Ray Bradbury nut. As a kid, I found an old dog-eared copy of The Illustrated Man. This is cover art for The Illustrated Man. If anybody in here has a kid who's like 13 years old, or a niece or a nephew or a cousin, go find yourself a copy of Illustrated Man or Martian Chronicles or Something Wicked This Way Comes. These books totally sparked my imagination, and they really led me to wonder about these hidden worlds that are out there. I'm also lucky to have two amazing parents who really exposed me to the world beyond the small town I grew up in. My mother is British. She grew up in the swinging 60s in London. There's Mom. She looks like an Austin Powers extra. So as a kid, we used to go to London. Some of my earliest memories are flying on board a big old 747, flying across the pond to visit my family in the UK. And my dad is the real adventurer in the family. This is a picture of my father at the South Pole, of all places. My dad was the real deal adventurer. I'm just the TV version. He served in the Seabees. He worked as a commercial deep sea diver. He traveled all over the world. And my dad was always coming back from, you know, the Middle East and West Africa, the North Sea. And as a kid, I just remember wanting to have these kinds of adventures for myself. And my parents took me on a trip, one trip every year, that totally shaped my world. More than anything else, more than Raiders, more than Goonies. Every spring break growing up, they would pack us up and take us on an exotic voyage down the Amazon, down the Mekong, down the Ganges, all in one trip, aboard the world-famous Jungle Cruise in exotic Orlando. It's humid enough to be the Amazon. My grandfather lived in Florida, so we made a pilgrimage every year down to Disney World as a kid. And I'm telling you, those 10-minute trips around the rivers of the world shaped my destiny. I was spun. They filled me with fascination. Adventureland and that ride kindled a fire in me that has never gone out. And many years later, I would get my own very small piece of Disney real estate in the queue for Expedition Everest at Animal Kingdom. So if you're ever down at Animal Kingdom waiting in line to board Expedition Everest, take a selfie next to me and I'll post it on the internet. Disney was a big deal for me growing up. I even have a Jungle Cruise sign in my kid's bedroom, if this gives you any idea of how obsessed I was. There's also the Rules of Jumanji there, and Iron Man's mask, and an original series Star Trek tricorder. So God help my children. Because, God help them really, because this was me in high school. Look at this nerd. Look at this fool. I always show this photo. I hate it so much. First of all, why is it so crotchy? Like, who took it? What professional photographer posed this photo? And I'm a big guy. They were like, put him on a tiny column. Make him look as big as possible. But that's me. That's me. I grew up in the very beautiful, very small town of Manchester by the Sea, Massachusetts, aka the saddest movie ever made. Did anybody see the movie Manchester by the Sea? That's my hometown. This is a better photo. It is a real town. It's a beautiful little town in Massachusetts. out, please come visit. It's a lovely little spot. And in my town, there's a beautiful old library. That's me sitting on the wall. I was born in 1854. No, it's not me. I could have used a more recent photo, but the library looks exactly like this today, all these years later. And as a kid, I was always fascinated by something in this library, this beautiful wooden arch that stands in the library at the head of the book stacks. And there is this Latin inscription on the arch. My Latin is a little rusty, but it translates to choose wisely. Although the choice is brief, it will last you an eternity. Wise words for someone about to choose a book. And I think it applies just as perfectly to anyone choosing to plan a trip, anyone who's going to walk through these hundreds of booths out here. You know, the act of picking out a book or the act of booking a trip can take just a moment. It can take just a click, right? But the experience can stay with you for the rest of your life. It can be transformative if you choose wisely, right? If you choose wisely. So how do you choose? That's what I want to chat about, is the way that I think about travel, the way that you might want to think about travel, so that you can go out there and choose wisely. Out here you pick, you're going to get that. You're going to be away from work. You might be away from your kids. You know, if you're like me, you're going to be drunk by a pool. This is easy. This is like any trip. You can do this. But the stuff on the right, this stuff is a little more difficult. But this is the stuff, I always say, that sticks to your ribs. This is the stuff that stays with you. You want to learn something, you want to be changed, you want to have great memories that stay with you, then we have to think about what do we do to get this stuff on the right. So here's tip number one. Start thinking about your next trip as an investment, not as a getaway. Travel takes time, and time is really precious, especially in America, right? We get like less vacation time than almost any industrialized nation in the world. So time is really precious, and travel can be expensive. So you're spending your precious time, you're spending your money. That should be an investment. You should come back from that trip having learned something and having memories that will stay with you, right? That's what you paid for in time and money. So from like the 17th century to the early 19th century, a rite of passage for young men who could afford it was something called the Grand Tour in Europe, right? This was a trip through Europe that almost always included Italy, where young men would travel as an educational rite of passage. They were accompanied by a tutor. This is before we had Rick Steves. They were accompanied by a tutor, and they would visit sites of classical antiquity. They would experience the art of the Renaissance. And this was at a time where if you wanted to see any of these things, you had to go there. If you wanted to hear certain music, you had to go there. There was no way to listen to this stuff at home or to see this stuff. And today this tradition like kind of carries on in a much less structured way, most especially in Europe, where kids often take a gap year, something that is not fully caught on in the States, but after high school and before college, a lot of kids around the world will take a year to go explore and to kind of get settled and grounded and see the world and kind of decide on a course for themselves. If you want to be changed, if you want to make those lasting memories, you gotta get outside of your comfort zone. You gotta go do something that maybe scares you a little bit. Now this does not mean, I'm not up here saying that your next vacation should be walking across the Sahara without a bottle of water. You don't have to climb a mountain, you don't have to take on some huge physical challenge. But whatever you do, there should be within it an element of the unknown. I do not recommend an experience where you are not challenging yourself in some way, big or small. I am a big believer that not all travel needs to be easy. It may not be popular, but I'm a big believer that not all travel needs to be fun. You know, I'm all for being drunk by the pool, believe me. But I do believe that my best memories, all of the things that I could rattle off, most of them are challenges. They're the difficult times that I had where I did something that surprised myself. And so you have to meet the unknown. And you don't have to take my word for it. A report done by the Global Commission on Aging concluded that traveling, and I'm quoting, exposes your brain to an environment that's complex and new and difficult, and when you do that, the brain reacts in wild ways. Challenging situations cause the brain to sprout neural extensions, which grow the brain's capacity. Your brain literally begins to look like a jungle, the researchers said. And the study notes that while there are many ways to stimulate your brain, challenging travel is an ideal method. The report says, quote, travel drops your brain into a place that is complex, you are stunned, and your brain reacts by being engaged, and you begin to process on a deeper level. This is one of dozens of studies that have all found similar results. The unknown, an adventure, it's good for you, and it stays with you. So, this is, okay, so you're going to embrace the unknown. You're going to, whatever trip you pick, you're going to make sure there's some element in it where you're going to challenge yourself. So, okay, but where? We're still stuck with this question of, but where do I go? Well, here's a piece of advice that seems stunningly obvious, and yet a lot of people don't heed it. Go where you want to go. Seems easy enough. And I do meet people all the time who say, I'm going to England because my whole life I've been obsessed with England. I loved Sherlock Holmes novels as a kid, and I was obsessed with, I don't know, Winston Churchill, and I loved Peter Pan, and I want to see Big Ben, and it's been a passion of mine to see this place. But I also meet a lot of people who say, we're going to Turks and Caicos. And I go, amazing, why? And they go, I don't know. I've never been to Turks and Caicos. Now, I'm not knocking Turks and Caicos. Beautiful place. But I do think that, you know, if you're going to spend time and money, really sit down and listen to your inner voice. Think about the places, the books, the history, the music, the food, anything that ignites your own passion and curiosity, and let that guide you. What destination is really going to feed you? I loved Indiana Jones. I loved The Goonies. I wanted to see temples. I wanted to go to Cambodia. I wanted to go to ancient Egypt. I wanted to go to the jungles of Africa. Those places called to me from an early age. Other people are called by other things. Listen to that inner voice of that inner traveler. It's down in there. Don't, you know, find the signal. There's a lot of noise, right? What do you really kind of dream of that you want to see or experience? If you can follow that map, your trip will already be memorable. It'll be a hit, right? Another thing I'm a huge proponent of that I always tell people is goal-based travel. In 2006, having never climbed a mountain, two buddies of mine and I decided that we would climb Kilimanjaro, one of the famed 7 summits in Tanzania. We booked the trip a year out. We made mission patches for our clothes, and we made a website, a blog, and we sent it to all of our friends and family, so we were screwed. We had to actually do this, right? We put it out there, we're gonna do this. And we did. We trained for a year. I lost 80 pounds. I got in the best shape of my life, and we spent a week hiking up the side of the world's tallest freestanding volcano. There's me at the top. I look happy. I'm just frozen, actually. This remains the single most meaningful trip of my entire life because it was hard, because I had to spend a whole year thinking about it and getting ready for it. The friendship I forged with these two guys, and the sense of accomplishment, personal accomplishment. This is not K2, right? Kilimanjaro is a walk-up. This is not like I didn't summit the earth here. But the sense of personal accomplishment was so profound for me, and that push, that challenge has stayed with me forever. So it doesn't need to be climbing a mountain. Maybe run a 5K in another country. Do a trek to the Annapurna Circuit. You don't have to summit Everest. Take a bike ride, even a long distance drive across multiple countries with nothing but a paper map, you know? Anything you can think of that kind of freaks you out, right? Learn guitar and challenge yourself to play at an open mic night at a pub in Dublin. Whew, that sounds scary. You know? Drive a car to Ulaanbaatar on the Mongol Rally. Or just try crossing the street in Vietnam. Something that's scary. And, you know, challenge yourself. Pick a date, make a goal, go. You will not regret it, I promise you. This is an amazing way to travel. Another thing I love is event-based travel. I love aligning my trips to big cultural festivals. Next month, you can hit India's Holi Festival, where locals cover each other in vibrant colored powders, this amazing festival. Or since Thailand is officially the destination of the year, you could go there in April for Songkran, a festival of cleansing and renewal that has devolved into the world's largest water fight. There's me ruining someone's day in a tuk-tuk. Traveling to places during big festivals puts you in the middle of this energy and this action, and it automatically elevates the entire trip. You're a part of something now with thousands of people. Go to the Running of the Bulls. You don't have to run, but the energy of that event, of being there at that moment, can be incredible. It can be life-changing. The 80-20 rule. This is simple, and it's a piece of advice that I dole out a lot. It doesn't apply to organized tours necessarily, but for any trip where you're in control of the itinerary, for every 5 days that you travel, one of those days should be totally unprogrammed. I am a huge believer in this. That means no plans, no dinner reservations, a totally open day where anything could happen. Wander around, get lost, or do nothing at all. We book our trips end to end to the hilt, usually. And what happens? We meet people on a trip where they'll go, oh man, last night we found this incredible seafood shack down the beach. You gotta go there tomorrow. And you go, well, I can't, because tomorrow we're doing this, and we got the thing booked at 2, and we go to places, and discovery is right in front of us. Like, we learn something that we could go do and go experience, but we're booked. So you gotta leave yourself some time to have real, authentic experiences. I will tell you, one of the most transformative experiences of my whole life happened when I was 14 years old. My dad traveled the world for a living, but he wasn't really a tourist traveler. But for some reason, when I was 14, my dad took me to Rome, just the two of us. We took an overnight flight to get there. We got in midday, and my dad was beat. And he wanted to take a nap, and he thought, we'll go out for dinner. That'll be like the first thing we do. But I was a 14-year-old kid, and I'd never been to Italy, and I just was champing at the bit, right? So my dad, I mean, this was a different time, and I'm not necessarily giving this out as parenting advice, but my dad said, why don't you go wander around? And I was kind of stunned by this. And I went down to the lobby, and I got one of those tourist maps of the city center, and I saw where our hotel was, and I looked at this map, and I went out onto the streets of Rome. And it's the first time as a 14-year-old kid that I'd ever kind of been somewhere without my parents or an adult and been told, just go out into the world, you know? And I remember seeing all these piazzas on the map and thinking, well, if I go here and turn left and turn right and turn left, and going down this warren of streets and ending up in one of those beautiful, you know, ancient Italian piazzas, and just looking out and seeing the facades and the fountain and the pigeons and the people and the cafes, and just feeling like I found this place. I felt like Columbus, you know, especially since there were already people there. But I felt like I had discovered something, you know, as a kid, that I kind of owned this moment. And I went to a cafe and I sat down. I probably should have ordered an espresso. I was too young to drink coffee, and I ordered a pot of tea. And they brought a little silver pot of tea and a cup and a tea bag and sugar. And I sat there and I drank a cup of tea and watched the world go by in a little square in Rome. And the next day, we went to the Vatican, we went to forget it. None of that stuff, I mean, those things are amazing, but that day, wandering around for 4 hours on my own, under my own steam, totally in the unknown, and just sitting there and pretending I was a local, you know? And what must it be like to live here, has stayed with me for decades, because it was a little scary, and it was the unknown, and I had time to experience it, you know? Give yourself time in a place, if you can, when you can, to experience it. The thing that happens when we travel, let's say you're not on a group tour, let's say it's just you and your family. A weird thing that often happens is we don't meet anybody. We kind of stay in our lifeboat. We talk to our family, our significant others, our kids. I mean, other than the bartender or the guy selling the postcard and, you know, the people that you kind of transactionally interact with, we don't really meet people. We don't meet locals. And in a guided tour, you have the benefit of meeting other people that are travelers like you, which is amazing, right? I'm all for that. That's awesome. But we gotta meet local people when we travel. That's half the experience, right? You're gonna go around the world. It's not just the view. You need to meet people. You need to find ways to meet people. And so that's scary. It is scary. It's scary to plop down on a bench next to a stranger and chat them up, especially in another country. But that's my advice. Run toward the unknown. There are ways to do this. Volunteer for a day on your trip. Sign up for a cooking class led by locals. Sign up for some sort of craft activity led by locals. Find ways to interact with local people beyond just the touristic activities being organized by the hotel. Or yes, plop down on a bench and say hello to someone. It is scary, but it is incredibly good for you. And you will make connections and maybe even friends in another country. And those friendships can last you well beyond the life of your trip. I had an amazing experience last year with my kids. My kids are 6 and 8, and I took them to Hawaii for the very first time last year. They'd been to Boston to visit my family there, and they'd been to Florida, and when they were very young, they went to Mexico, and they don't remember it. But this was kind of their first time going out over an ocean. And they, like I think most of us that have been to Hawaii, they just fell in love. And we went to Oahu, and they were just totally, right? I mean, this is like, to him, he's like, this is amazing. He's never seen a Hawaiian guy before, right? So they do a little lesson there on the beach, and then the guy says, I'm going to take him out to the break to see, how it goes. And I realized in this moment, because I was traveling alone, that I couldn't really go out there. I had my 6-year-old, and both my kids are strong swimmers, but it just wasn't going to work. And so I said to my son, if you go out there, I can't go with you. You're going to have to go with this guy that you don't know. And he goes, no problem, Dad, I got it. And I was really amazed by this. And he paddled out to this surf break, which, if you've been there in Waikiki, that surf break is like, you can't really see people. That's how far out it is. And for the next hour, I sat on this beach with my daughter, more terrified than I have ever been in my entire life. Like, I've been diving in collapsed pyramids in Sudan. I was more scared sitting on this beach for my son's safety. And after an hour, they came back. These 2 women paddled in and said, is that your boy out there? I said, the little kid? They said, yeah, he's up on the surfboard. He's doing great. And he came back in, and it was like a different kid. It was like he went from 8 to 18. And he was throwing shakas with this guy, and he wanted to go back and meet him the next day. And I said, how was it out there? And he said, it's amazing. I surfed. I got up on the board, I surfed, it was amazing. And I said, was it scary? Was the water scary, the fish, the thing? And he goes, no, Dad, it wasn't scary. And he said, you know what happened? He said, a turtle swam up to watch me surf. Which is a very Hawaiian concept, actually. And he believed that this turtle that had surfaced out there was there to watch him. And he did that, all of that, on his own. He was brave enough to go in the water. He was brave enough to meet a stranger. He was brave and dumb enough to paddle out into the surf break with him. And you don't always know when your kid is going to have one of these tentpole moments that kind of shapes him, but sometimes you do, and that was one of them. And he did it because he was brave and because he embraced the unknown. So that's just a little lesson. Meet people, engage with people, take lessons, volunteer, think outside the lines when you travel, and figure out something that scares you a little bit, because it'll stay with you in a way that nothing else will. So we'll do a quick Q&A, but something that I always tell people who come to hear me speak is to please go away often. Don't go away. Go away often. I don't care if it's a trip to a state park for a day hike, or if it is a trek across the Sahara. Get out of your comfort zone, especially if you have kids. I fundamentally believe that travel is good for us. It's not just a luxury, it's important, it's good for us. It broadens our horizons, it changes our perspectives, it challenges our beliefs, it makes us more interesting at dinner parties. Choosing the unknown, moving toward the unknown, it will reward you with experiences that will not only change you, but you will remember them for the rest of your life. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, guys. Okay.
How you doing?
How you doing, man?
Nice to meet you. What's going on? How you doing? Lots of fun stuff.
Appreciate it.
YouTube travel channel.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
What's their handle?
Travel America.
Awesome. You have a favorite spot in the country?
They all have something different to offer.
Yeah.
That's my go-to answer.
Yeah. What would you tell someone who's never been to the States and they're going to come for one trip and they're only going to go to like one area?
Sign, or you just taking pictures? They have 2 things to sign.
Okay, you're good.
Yeah, you're just filling the camera.
They got a week.
I would say hit the auto
Good advice all around. I love that. Good. Photo.
Thank you.
Hey, great to meet you.
So that was fun. I met Josh Gates, got a photo taken, and I am tired, so we're leaving. Travel show for 2025. All done. So I'm driving back after the travel and adventure show. Got to meet Josh Gates. Saw his talk. Talked to him a little bit about my travel channel, which was super cool. He asked me a bunch of questions about it. That was really nice. Asked me what my favorite places are in the country. He said, if I were to come to America for a week, where would you tell me to go? So I gave him a couple of ideas, a couple of suggestions, and we laughed, and we had a good time. Got a photo. He signed my koozie. Adventure on, Andy, Adventure on, Josh Gates. Super cool. Had a really fun day at the Travel and Adventure Show. Off to Utah. Thanks for watching, guys.